Welcome to Black Artist Lit. I'm your host, Nakira Cheney, and before we get started, I guess the first thing we can talk about is you're going to have to bear with me on this episode because new year, but my seasonal allergies don't change. So with the seasons, so do they. But as a saying goes, the train, it doesn't stop. And today we are reading Gloria Naylor's book, Mama Day. Now, let's just take a moment here. And if you don't know who Gloria Naylor is, you probably know one of her most famous works, which was Women of Brewster Place. Women of Brewster Place came out and it truly almost instantly became a cult phenomenon. I remember reading the book, but even before reading the book, I remember being young and seeing it when it actually was on TV with my grandmother. But Women of Brewster had the seven characters, and it had so many different storylines. That's where even back then, Oprah, and this is back in like 1990, Oprah, she had her Harper Productions, and they were doing they did the TV show with the Women of Brewster Place, but that's where you had characters like you had Maddie in the book, which was she was a young girl who found out she was pregnant and went through some stuff with her family, and then she moves to and she takes care of her child who goes through some stuff, and she ends up losing her home, and she moves to Brewster Place. You had Eva, who was there that was helping. You had Etta May. Etta May was actually, I believe it was Etta May that was modeled after um, Billie Holiday. I want to say that it was. You had Sophie. It was either way. Women of Brewster Place was just an amazing book, but it was even better. I just remember the stories that coming from. I remember sitting and watching it, and then the different conversations that would take place around the things that had happened in the show. So that is Women of Brewster Place. But today we're going to be reading Mama Day, which also is near and dear and has its own special place for what it's about. But just a little bit on Mama Day. So on Willow Springs lives Mama Day, a matriarch who can call up lightning storms and see secrets in her dreams. But all of Mama Day's powers are tested when her great niece, a stubbornly emancipated woman, finds her life and soul in danger from the island's darker forces. Mama Day is a powerful generational saga, at once tender and suspenseful, overflowing with magic and common sense. So I'm not going to hold you up. I was really excited to read this to you guys today. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Tuesday, 3rd day of August, 1819. Sold to Mr. Bascom Wade of Willow Springs. One negress answering to the name Sapphira. Age 20. Pure African stock. Limbs and teeth sound. All warranty against the vices and maladies prescribed by law do not hold forth. Purchaser being in full knowledge and affixing signature in witness thereof that says Sapphira is half prime, inflicted with sullenness and entertains a bilious nature, having resisted under reasonable chastisement the performance of field or domestic labor, has served on occasion in a capacity of midwife and nurse, not without extreme mischief and suspicions of dwelling in witchcraft, conditions of sale, one half gold tender, one half goods in kind, final. Willow Springs. Everybody knows, but nobody talks about the legend of Sapphira Wade, a true conjure woman, satin black, biscuit cream, red as Georgia clay. Depending upon which of us take a mind to her, she could walk through a lightning storm without being touched, grab a bolt of lightning in the palm of her hand, use the heat of lightning to start the kindling going under her medicine pot. Depending upon which of us take a mind to her, she turned the moon into salt, the stars into a swaddling cloth, and heal the wounds of every creature walking up on 2 or 4. It ain't about right or wrong, truth or lies. It's about a slave woman who brought a whole new meaning to both them words. Soon as you cross over here from beyond the bridge, and somehow, someway, it happened in 1823. She smothered Bascom Wade in his very bed and lived to tell the story for 1,000 days. 1823. Married Bascom Wade. Bore him 7 sons in just 1,000 days. To put a dagger through his kidney and escape the hangman's noose, laughing in a burst of flames. 1823. Persuaded Bascom Wade in 1,000 days to deed all his slaves every inch of land in Willow Springs, poisoned him for his trouble, to go on and bear 7 sons by person or persons unknown, mixing it all together and keeping everything that done shifted down through the holes of time. You end up with the death of Bascom Wade. There's his tombstone right out by Chevy's Pass. The deeds to our land, all marked back to the very year. And 7 sons, ain't Miss Abigail and Mama Day the granddaughters of that 7th boy? The wild card in all this is 1,000 days. And we guess if we put our hands together, we'll come up with something, which ain't possible since the Pharaoh Wade don't live in the part of our memory we can use to form words. But ain't a soul in Willow Springs don't know that little dark girls, who are braided up with colored twine, got their 18 and 23s coming down when they lean too long over them backyard fences, laughing at the antics of little dark boys who got the nerve to be breathing 18 and 23 with mother's milk still on their tongues. And as she leans there just a mite too long or grins a bit too wide, it's gonna bring a holler straight through the dusty screen door. Get your bow-legged self away from my fence, Johnny Blue. Won't be no early 18 and 23s coming here for me to rock. I'm still raising her. Yes, the name Sapphira Wade is never breathed out of a single mouth in Willow Springs. But who don't know that old twisted lip manager at the Sheraton Hotel beyond the bridge, offering Winky Brown only $20 for his whole boatload of crawdaddies? Tried to 18 and 23 him. If he tried to do a thing, we all sitting here. A hop, skip, and 1 Christmas left before the year 2000, and ain't nobody told him niggas can read now? Like the menus in his restaurant don't say a handful of crawdaddies sprinkled over a little bowl of crushed ice is almost $12? Call it shrimp cocktail or whatever he want. We can count too. And the little price of everything that swims, crawls, or lays at the bottom of the Sound went up in 1985. During the season, we had that 18 and 23 summer, and the bridge blew down. Folks didn't take their lives in their hands out there in that treacherous water just to be doing it. Ain't that much 18 and 23 in the world. But that old hotel manager don't make no never mind. He's the least of what we done had to deal with here in Willow Springs. Malaria, Union soldiers, sandy soil, 2 big depressions, hurricanes. Not to mention these new real estate developers who think we're gonna sell our shoreland just because we ain't fool enough to live there. Started coming over here in the early 90s, talking vacation paradise, talking picturesque. Like Winky said, we'll have to pick their ass out the bottom of the Mars first hurricane blow through here again. See, they just thinking about building where they ain't got no state taxes. Never been and never will be, cause Willow Springs ain't in no state. Georgia and South Carolina done tried though. Been trying right after the Civil War to prove that Willow Springs belonged to one or the other of them. Look on any of them old maps they hurried and drew up soon as the Union soldiers pulled out. And you can see the only thing that connects us to the mainland is a bridge. And even that gotta be rebuilt after every big storm. They was talking about steel and concrete way back. But since Georgia and South Carolina couldn't claim the taxes, nobody wanted to shell out for the work. So we rebuilt it ourselves when we needed to, and built it how we needed, strong enough to last to the next big one. Only need a steel and concrete bridge once every 70 years or so. Wood and pitch is a tenth of the cost and serves us a good 69 years. Matter of simple arithmetic. But anyways, all 49 square miles curves like a bow stretching towards Georgia on the south end, and South Carolina are north and right smack in the middle, where each foot of the bridge sits in a dividing line between them two states. So who it belonged to? It belongs to us, clean and simple. And it belonged to our daddies, and our daddies before them, and them too, who at one time all belonged to Bascom Wade. And when they tried to trace him and how he got it, found out he wasn't even American, was Norway born or something. And the land had been sitting in his family over there in Europe since it got explored and claimed by the Vikings. Imagine that. So thanks to the conjuring of Sapphira Wade, we got it from Norway, or thereabout. And if taxed owed, it's owed to them. But ain't no Vikings or anybody else from over in Europe come to us with the foolishness that them folks out of Columbia and Atlanta come with. We was being un-American. And the way we saw it, America ain't entered the question at all when it comes to our land. Sapphira was African born. Bascom Wade was from Norway. And it was the 18 and 23 that went down between them two, put deeds in our hands. And we wasn't even Americans when we got it, was slaves. And the laws about slaves not owning nothing in Georgia and South Carolina don't apply. Because the land wasn't then and isn't now in either of them places. When there was lots of cotton here and we baled it up and sold it beyond the bridge, we paid our taxes to the US of A. And we keeps account of all the fishing that's done and sold beyond the bridge. All the little truck farming. And later, when we had to go over there to work with our children with, we paid taxes out of them earnings. We paid taxes on the telephone lines and electrical wires run over the sound. Ain't nobody here about breaking no laws. But Georgia and South Carolina ain't seeing the shine off a penny for our land, our homes, our roads, or our bridge. Well, they fought each other on up to the Supreme Court about the whole matter, and it came to a draw. We guess they got so tired out from that, they decided to leave us be. Until them developers started swarming over here like sandflies at a Sunday picnic. Sure, we could have used the money and weren't using the land. But like Mama Day told them, we knew to send them straight over there to her and Miss Abigail. They didn't come here huffing and sweating all this way in them dark suits if they didn't think our land could make them a bundle of money. And the way we saw it, there was enough land, shoreline, that is, to make us all pretty comfortable. And calculating on the basis of all them fantasy plans they had in mind, $1 million an acre wasn't asking too much. Flap, flap, flap. Lord, didn't them jaws and silk ties move in the wind? The land wouldn't be worth that if they couldn't build on it. Yes, sir, she told them. And they couldn't build on it unless we sold it. So we get ours now, and they get theirs later. You should have seen them coattails flapping back across the sound with all their lies about community uplift and better jobs. Because it weren't about no them now and us later. It was them now and us never. Hadn't we seen it happen back in the 80s on St. Helena and St. John's? And before that in the 60s on Hilton Head? Got them folks land, built fences around it first thing, and then brought in all the builders and high-paid managers from Maine side. Ain't nobody on them islands benefited. And the only dark faces you see now in them vacation paradises is the ones cleaning the toilets and cutting the grass. On their own land, mind you. Their own land. Weren't gonna happen in Willow Springs. Cause if Mama Day say so, everybody say no. There's 18 and 23, and there's 18 and 23. And nobody was gonna trifle with Mama Days, cause she know how to use it. Her being a discreet descendant of Sapphira Wade, piled on the back of springing forth from the seventh of the seventh son. Pal, Mama Day say no. Ain't no point in making a pile of money to be guaranteed the new moon will see you scratching at fleas you don't have, or rolling in the marsh like a mud turtle. And if some was waiting for her to die, they had a long wait. She says she ain't gonna. And when you think about it, to show up in 1 century, make it all the way through the next, and have a toe inching into the other one approaching, is about as close to eternity anybody can come. Well, them developers upped the price and changed the plans and upped the price, till it got to be a game with us. Winky bought a motorboat with what they offered him back in 1987, turned it in for a cabin cruiser 2 years later, and says he expects to be able to afford a yacht with the news that's waiting in the mail this year. Paris went from a new shingle roof to a split-level ranch and is making his way toward adding a swimming pool and greenhouse. But when all the laughing's done, it's the principle that remains. And we done learned that anything coming from beyond the bridge gotta be viewed real careful. Look what happened with Rima's boy, the one with the pear-shaped head, come hauling himself back from one of those fancy colleges' main side, dragging his notebooks and tape recorder and a funny way of curling up his lip and clicking his teeth, all excited and determined to put Willow Springs on the map. We was polite enough. Rima always was a little addle-brained, so you couldn't blame the boy for not remembering that part of Willow Springs' problem was that it got put on some maps right at the war between the states. And then when he went around asking us about 18 and 23, there weren't nothing to do but take pity on him as he rattled on about ethnography, unique speech patterns, cultural preservation, and whatever else he deemed to be getting so much pleasure out of while talking into his little gray machine. He was all over the place. What 18 and 23 mean? What 18 and 23 mean? And we all told him, the God honest truth, it was just our way of saying something. Winky was awful though. He even spit tobacco juice for him. Sat on his porch all day, chewing up the boy's Red Devil Premium and spitting so the machine could pick it up. There was enough fun in that to take us through the fall and winter when he had hauled himself back over the sound to wherever he was getting whatever was supposed to be passing for an education. And he sent everybody he talked to copies of the book he wrote, bound all nice with our name and signed on his first page. We couldn't hold Rima down. She was so proud. It was a good thing she didn't read it. None of us made it much through the introduction. But that said it all. You see, he had come to the conclusion after extensive field work, ain't never picked a ball of cotton or head of lettuce in his life. Rima spoiled him silly. But he done still made it to the conclusion that 18 and 23 wasn't 18 and 23 at all, was really 81 and 32, which just so happened to be the lines of longitude and latitude marking off where Willow Springs sits on the map. And we were just so damn dumb that we turned the whole thing around. Now that he called it being dumb, mind you, called it asserting our cultural identity, inverting hostile social and political parameters. Cause see, being we were brought here as slaves, we had no choice but to look at everything upside down. And then being that we was isolated off here on this island, everybody else in the country went on learning good English and calling things what they really was in the dictionary and all that, while we kept on calling things as backwards. And he thought that was just so wonderful and marvelous, etc., etc. Well, after that, creative books came here. If anybody had any doubts what them developers was up to, if there was just a tinge of seriousness behind them jokes about the motorboats and swirling pools that could have begotten us from selling a piece of land, them books squashed it. The people who ran the type of schools that could turn our children into raving lunatics and then put his picture on the back of a book so couldn't even try to deny it was him, didn't mean us a speck of good. If the boy wanted to know what 18 and 23 meant, why didn't he just ask? When he was running around sticking that machine in everybody's face, we was sitting right here, every one of us. And him being one of Rima's, we would have obliged him. He could have asked Cloris about the curve in her spine that came from the planting season when their mule broke its leg and she took up the reins and kept pulling the plow with her own back. Winky would have told him about the hot tar that took out the corner of his right eye the summer we only had 7 days to rebuild the bridge, so the few crops we had left after the storm could be gotten over before rot set in. Anybody would have told him and carried him through the fields we had to stop farming back in the 80s to take outside job, washing cars, carrying groceries, cleaning house, anything, because it was leave the land or lose it behind during the silent depression. Had more folks sleeping in the city streets and banks, foreclosing on farms than in the Great Depression before that. Nah, he didn't really want to know what 18 and 23 meant, or he would have asked. He would have asked right off where Miss Abigail Day was staying. So we could have sent him down the main road to that little yellow house where she used to live. And she would have given him a tall glass of ice water or some cinnamon tea as he heard about peace dying young, then hope and peace again. But there was the child of Grace, the grandchild, a girl who went Mainside like him and did real well, was living outside of Charleston now with her husband and 2 boys. So she visits a lot more often than she did when she was up in New York. And she probably would have pulled out that old photo album so he could have seen some pictures of her grandchild, Coco, and then Coco's mother, Grace. And Miss Abigail flips right through that to the beautiful one of Grace resting in her satin-lined coffin. And as she walks him back out to the front porch and points him across the road to a silver trailer where her sister Miranda lives, she tells him to grab up and chew a few sprigs of mint growing at the foot of the steps. It'll help kill his thirst in the hot sun. And if he had known enough to do just that, thirsty or not, he'd know that when he got to that silver trailer to stand back a distance calling Mama Day, to wait for her to come out and beckon him near. He'd have told her he had been sent by Miss Abigail, and so, more likely than not, she lets him in. And she hears him again about the child of Grace and her grandniece who went Mainside, like him and did real well, was living outside of Charleston now, with her husband and 2 boys. So she visits a lot more often than she did when she was up in New York. Coco is like her very own, Mama Day tells him, since she never had no children. And with him carrying that whiff of mint on his breath, she surely would have walked him out to the side yard, facing the patch of dogwood to say she has to end the visit a little short because she has some gardening to do in the other place. And if he'd had the sense to offer to follow her just a bit of the way, then and only then, he hears about that summer 14 years ago, when Coco came visiting from New York with her first husband. Yes, she tells him, there was a first husband, a Stone City boy. How his name was George, but how Coco left and he stayed. How it was the year of the last big storm that blew her pecan trees down and even caved in the roof of the other base. And she would have stopped him from walking just by the patch of oak. She reaches up, takes a bit of moss for him to put in them closed leather shoes. They're probably sweating his feet something terrible, she tells him. And he used to sit on the ground right there to untie his shoes, sticking in the moss. And then he'd see through the low bush, that old graveyard just down the slope. And when he looks back up, she would have disappeared through the trees. But he used to keep pushing the moss in them shoes and go on down to that graveyard where he'll find buried grace, hope, peace, and peace again. Then a little ways off, a grouping of 7 old graves, and a little ways off 7 older again, all circled by them live oaks, hanging moss over a rise from the tip of the sound. Everything he needed to know could have been heard from that yellow house to that silver trailer to that graveyard. Be too late for him to go that route now, since Miss Abigail's been dead for over 9 years. Still, there's an easier way. He could just watch Coco any one of these times she comes in from Charleston. She goes straight to Miss Abigail's to air out the rooms and unpack her bags. Then she's across the road to call out at Mama Day, who's going to come to the door of the trailer and wave as Coco heads on through the patch of dogwoods to the oak grove. She stops and puts a bit of moss in her open-toe sandals, then goes on past the graves to a spot just down the rise toward the sound, a little bit of the south of that circle of oaks. And if he was patient and stayed off a little ways, he'd realize she was there to meet up with her first husband, so they could talk about that summer 14 years ago when she left but he stayed. And as her and George are there together for a good 2 hours or so, neither one saying a word, Rima's boy could have heard from them everything there was to tell about 18 and 23. But on second thought, someone who didn't know how to ask wouldn't know how to listen. And he could have listened to them the way you've been listening to us right now. Think about it. Ain't nobody really talking to you. We're sitting here in Willow Springs, and you're God knows where. It's August 1999, Ain't but a slim chance it's the same season where you are. Listen. Really listen this time. The only voice is your own. But you done just about heard everything in the legend so far away. But nobody here breathes her name. You done heard it through the way we know it. Sitting on our porches and selling June peas. Quiet in the midnight cough of a baby. Taking a part of the engine of a car. You done heard it without a single living soul really saying a word. Pity though, Rima's boy couldn't listen. Like you to Coco and George down by them oaks, or he would have left here with quite a story. Chapter 1. You were picking your teeth with a plastic straw. I know, it wasn't really a straw. It was a coffee stirrer. But George, let's be fair. There are 2 little openings in those things that you could possibly suck liquid through if you were desperate enough. So I think I'm justified in calling it a straw, since dumps like that 3rd Avenue coffee shop had no shame in calling it a coffee stirrer, when the stuff they poured into your cup certainly didn't qualify as coffee. Everything about those types of places was a little more or less than they should have been. I was always thrown off balance. The stainless steel display cases were too clean. And did you ever notice that the cakes and pies inside of them never made crumbs when they were cut? And no juice ever dripped from the cantaloupes and honeydews? The Formica tabletops were a bit too slippery for your elbows. And the smell of those red vinyl seats, always red vinyl, seeped into the taste of your food, which came out warm if it was a hot dish and warm if it was a cold dish. I swear to you, once I got warm pistachio ice cream and it was solid as a rock. Those places in New York were designed for assembly line nutrition, and it worked. There was nothing in there to encourage you to linger, especially when the bill came glued to the bottom of your dessert plate. Who would want to ask for a second cup of coffee and have to sit there watching a big greasy thumbprint spread slowly over the thank you printed on the back? I suppose you had picked up the stirrer for your coffee because you'd already used the teaspoon for your soup. I saw the waitress bring you the Wednesday special. And that meant pea soup, which had to be attacked quickly before it lumped up. So not risking another 20-minute wait for a soup spoon, you used your teaspoon, which left you without anything to use in your coffee when it came with the bill. And obviously you knew that our pleasant waitresses catch you in a minute, babe, doomed you to either your finger, a plastic stirrer, or coffee straight up. And you use plenty of sugar and milk. That guy knows the art of dining successfully on 3rd Avenue, I thought. When the lunch menu has nothing priced above $6, it's make do if you're gonna make it back to work without ulcers. And there wasn't a doubt in my mind that you were going back to some office or somewhere definite after that meal. It wasn't just the short-sleeved blue shirt and tie. You ate with a certain ease and decisiveness that spelled employed with each forkful of stringy roast beef. 6 months of looking for a job had made me an expert at picking out the people who, like me, were hurrying up to wait. And somebody's out or anything for a chance to make it through their inner doors to prove that you could type 2 words a minute or not drool on your blouse while answering difficult questions about your middle initial and date of birth. By that August, I had it down to a science, although the folks here would say that I was gifted with a bit of Mama Day's second sight. Second sight had nothing to do with it. In March of that year, coats started coming off, and it was the kind of April that already had you dodging spit from the air conditioners along the side streets. So by midsummer, I saw it all hanging out. Those crisp butterflies along the avenues, those dresses still holding the sharp edges of cloth that had been under the cool air all morning in some temperature-controlled box, or the briefcases that hung near some guy's thigh with a balance that said there was more in them than empty partitions and his gym shorts. And I guess, being a woman, I could always tell here. Heads are held differently when they've been pampered every week. The next massage to relax tense muscles so the layers will fall right, dear. The blondes in their Dutch boy cuts, my counterparts in jerry curls, those Asian women who had to do practically nothing to be gorgeous with theirs, so they frizzed it or chopped it off, because then everybody knew they had the $35 a week to keep it looking that way. Yeah, that group all had jobs. And it was definitely first sight on any evening rush hour train, all those open neck cotton shirts, always plaid or collared, with the dried sweat marks under the arms of riders who had the privilege of a seat before the northbound IRT hit Midtown, because those men had done their stint in the factory warehouses and loading docks farther down on Delancey or in East New York or Brooklyn. But it took a little extra attention for the in-betweens, figuring out which briefcases that swung with the right weight held only pounds of resumes, or which Gucci appointment books had the classifieds neatly clipped out and taped onto the pages so you think she was expected wherever she was headed, instead of just expected to wait. I have to admit, the appointment book scam took a bit of originality in class. That type knew that a paper folded into the last section was a dead giveaway. And I don't know who the others were trying to fool, or pretending to scan the headlines and editorial page before going to the classifieds, and they're finally creasing the paper and shifting it an inch or two closer to their faces. When all else failed, I was left with watching the way they walked, either too determined or too hesitantly through some revolving door on 6th Avenue. Misery loves company. And that's exactly what I was searching for on the scented paths and phones. And when I could pick one out, I felt a little better about myself. At least I was real. I didn't have a job, and I wanted one, badly. When your unemployment checks have a remaining lifespan that's shorter than a testy fly, and you know that temp agencies are barely going to pay your rent, and all the doorways around Times Square are already taken by determined-looking ladies, masquerades go right out the window. It's begging your friends for a new lead every day, a newspaper folded straight to the classifieds, and a cup of herb tea and a house salad anywhere the bill will come in under $2 with a table near an air conditioner. While you finish your lunch and were trying to discreetly get the roast beef from between your teeth, I had 20 minutes before the next cattle call. I was to be in the herd slotted between 1 and 3 at the Andrews and Stein Engineering Company. And if my feet hadn't swollen because I slipped off my high heels under the table, I might have gone over and offered you one of the mint-flavored toothpicks I always carried around with me. I met quite a few guys in restaurants with my box of toothpicks. It was a foolproof way to start up a conversation once I checked out what they ordered and how they ate it. The way a man chews can tell you loads about the kind of lover he'll turn out to be. Don't laugh. Meat is meat. And you had given those 3 slabs of roast beef a consideration they didn't deserve. So I actually played with the idea that you might be worth the pain of forcing on my shoes. You had nice teeth and strong, blunt fingers. And your nails were clean, but thank God not manicured. I had been trying to figure out what you did for a living. The combination of a short sleeve colored shirt and knit tie could mean anything from security guard to eccentric VP. Regardless, anyone who preferred a plastic stirrer over that open saucer of toothpicks near the cash register collecting flecks of earwax and grease from 100 rummaging fingernails, or at least had common sense if not a high regard for the finer points of etiquette. But when you walked past me, I let you and the idea go. My toothpicks had already gotten me 2 dates in the last month, 1 whole creep and a half creep. I could have gambled that my luck was getting progressively better and you'd only be a quarter creep, but even so, meeting a quarter creep in a 3rd Avenue coffee shop usually meant he'd figured that I would consider a free lecture on the mating habits of African violets at the Botanical Gardens and dinner at a Greek restaurant. Red vinyl booths, a step up. That much, this Southern girl had learned. There was a definite relationship between where you met some guy in New York and where he asked you out. Now, getting picked up in one of those booths at a Greek restaurant meant dinner at a mid-drawer ethnic, Mexican, Chinese, Southern Italian with real tablecloths but under glass shields, and probably off-Broadway tickets. And if you hooked into someone at one of those restaurants, dinner was out to top-drawer ethnic, North Italian, French, Russian, or Continental, with waiters, not waitresses, and balcony seats on Broadway. East Side restaurants, village jazz clubs, and orchestra suites at Lincoln Center where nights out with the pool you found available at Maxwell Plum or any singles bar above 59th Street on the east side and below 96 on the west. I never graduated to the bar scene because I didn't drink and refused to pay $3.50 for a club soda until the evening bore returns. Some of my friends said that you could run up an $18 tab in no time that way, only to luck out with a pink quarter creep who figured that because you were a black woman, it was down the mid-draw ethnic for dinner the next week. And if he was a brown quarter creep, he had waited just before closing time to pick up the tab for your last drink. And if you didn't show the proper amount of gratitude for a hand on your thigh and an invitation to his third floor walk-up into paradise, you got told in so many words that your bad attitude was the exact reason why he had come there looking for white girls in the first place. I sound awful, don't I? Well, those were awful times for a single woman in that city of yours. There was something so desperate and sad about it all, especially for my friends. You know, Selma kept going to those fancy single bars, insisting that was the only way to meet certain black men. And she did meet them, those who certainly weren't looking for her. Then it was in Central Park, of all places, that she snagged this doctor. Not just any doctor, a Park Avenue neurosurgeon. After only 3 months, he was hinting marriage, and she was shouting to us a future of douching with Chanel No. 5, using laminated dollar bills for shower curtains, the whole bit. And the sad thing wasn't really how it turned out. I mean, as weird as it was when he finally told her that he was going to have a sex change operation, but he was waiting for the right woman who was also willing to get one along with him, because he never dreamed of sleeping with another man, even after the operation, weirder. And much sadder than all that, George, was the fact that she debated seriously about following him to Denmark and doing it. So let me tell you, my toothpicks, as small a gesture as they were, helped me to stay on top of all that madness. I finally left that coffee shop and felt whatever life that might have been revived in my linen suit and hair wilting away. How could it get so hot along 3rd Avenue when the buildings blocked out the sunlight? When I had come to New York City 7 years before that, I wondered about the need for such huge buildings. No one ever seemed to be in them for very long. Everyone was out on the sidewalks, moving. And to where? My first month, I was determined to find out. I followed a woman once. She had a beehive hairdo with the rhinestone bobby pins along the side of her head that matched the side of the rhinestones on her tinted glasses. Her thumbnails were the only polished ones in glassy lacquer on both hands, and they were so long they had curled under like hooks. I figured that she was so strange no one would ever notice me trailing her. We began on 53rd Street and 6th Avenue near Sheraton, moved west to 8th Avenue before turning right where she stopped at the Korean fruit stand, bought a kiwi and walked along peeling the skin with her thumbnails. I lost her at Columbus Circle. She threw the peeled fruit uneaten into a trash can and took the escalator down into the subway. As she was going down, another woman was coming up the escalator with 2 bulging plastic bags. This one took me along Broadway up to where it meets Columbus Avenue at 6th 3rd, and she sat down on one of those benches in the traffic median with her bags between her legs. She kept beating her heels against the side, and it sounded as if she had loose pots and pans in them. A really distinguished-looking guy with a tweed jacket and gray sideburns got up from the bench the moment she sat down, went into a flower shop across Columbus Avenue, came out empty-handed, and I followed him back down toward the circle until we got to the entrance to Central Park. He slowed up, turned around, looked me straight in the face, and smiled. That's when I noticed that he had diaper pins holding pie in his front together. You know, the kind they used to have with pink rabbit heads on them. I never thought anyone could beat my Central Park story until Selma met her neurosurgeon there. After that guy, I gave up. I was exhausted by that time anyway. I hated to walk, almost as much as I hated the subways. There's something hypocritical about a city that keeps half of its population underground half of the time. You can start believing that there's much more space than there really is to live, to work. And I had trouble doing both in spite of these endless classifieds in the Sunday Times. You know, there are more pages in just their Help Wanted section than in the telephone book here in Willow Springs. But it took me a while to figure out that New York racism moved underground like most of the people did. Mama Day and Grandma had told me that there was a time when the want ads and housing listings in the newspapers, even up north, were clearly marked colored or white. It must have been wonderfully easy to go job hunting then. You were spared a lot of leg work and head work, and how I longed for those times when I was busting my butt up and down the streets. I said as much at one of those parties Selma was always giving for her people. You would have thought I had announced that they were really drinking domestic wine. The place got that quiet. One of her certain people was so upset his voice shook. "You mean you want to bring back segregation?" I looked at him like he was a fool. Where had it gone? I just wanted to bring back the clarity. It could save me a whole lot of subway tokens. What I was left to deal with were the ads labeled equal opportunity employer or nothing, which might as well have been labeled color apply or take your chances. And if I wanted to limit myself to the sure bets, then it was an equal opportunity to be what? Or earn what? That's where the head work came in. It's like the ad I was running that downtown afternoon. A one-incher in Monday's paper for a office manager. A long office job description, so there wasn't enough room to print equal opportunity employer, even if there were. They hadn't advertised Sunday because I double-checked. They didn't want to get lost among the full and have columns the agencies ran. Obviously a small operation. Andrews and Stein Engineering Company. It was half Jewish at least, so that said liberal, maybe. Or maybe they only wanted their own. I had never seen any Jewish people except on television until I arrived in New York. I had heard that they were clannish, and coming from Willow Springs, I could identify that. Salary competitive. That could mean anything, depending upon whether they were competing with Burger King or IBM. Positions begin September 1st. That was the clincher, with all the other questions hanging in the balance. If I got the job, I could still go home for mid-August. Even if I didn't get it, I was going home. Mama Day and Grandma could forgive me for leaving Willow Springs, but not for staying away. I got to the address and found exactly what I had feared. A 6th-floor building, low-rent district, if you could call anything low in New York. Andrews and Stein was Suite 511. The elevator, like the ancient marble floor and maroon print carpeting on the 5th floor, was worn but carefully maintained. Dimly lit hallways to save on the overhead and painted walls that looked just a month short of needing a fresh coat. I could see that the whole building was being held together by some dedicated janitor who was probably near retirement. Oh no, if these folks were going to hire me, it would be for peanuts. Operations, renting space in a place like this shelled out decent salaries only for Mr. Stein's brainless niece or Mr. Andrews' current lay. Well, you're here, Coco, I thought. Go through the motions. The cherry vanilla who buzzed me in the door was predictable, but there might still be reason for hope. When small liberal establishments put a fudge cream behind their glass reception cages, there were rarely any more back in the offices. Sticking you out front and let them sleep pretty good at night, thinking they had put the ghost of Martin Luther King to rest. There were 3 other women ahead of me, and one very, very gay Oriental. God, those were rare, at least in my circles. The 4 of them already had clipboards and were filling out one-page applications. Cherry Vanilla was pleasant enough. She apologized for there being no more seats and told me I had to wait until one of the clipboards was free unless I had something to write on. A small operation. But she wasn't pouring out that oily politeness that's normally used to slide you quietly out of any chance of getting the job. One of the women sitting there filling out an application was actually Licorice. Her hair was in deep body waves with the sheen of patent leather, and close as I was, I couldn't tell whether her hair ended and her skin began. And she had the body and all and courage to wear a Dan-skin top as tight as it was red. I guess that lady said, "You're gonna see me coming from a mile away, like it or not." I bet a lot of men did like it. If they were replacing Mr. Andrews' Bimble, she'd get the job. And the way she looked me up and down, dismissing my washed-out complexion and wilted linen suit, made me want to push out my pathetic chest. But that meant bringing in my non-existent hips. Forget it, I thought. You're standing here with no tits, no ass, and no color. So console yourself with the fantasy that she's mixed up her addresses and is applying for the wrong job. Why else come to an interview in an outfit that will look better the wetter it got, unless you want it to be a lifeguard? I could dismiss the other two women right away. Milkshakes. One had her resumes typed on different shades of pastel paper and she was shifting through them, I guess trying to figure out which one matched the decor of the office. The other had forgotten her social security card and wanted to know if she could call home for the number. To be stupid enough not to memorize it was one thing, but not to know enough to sit there and shut up about it was beyond witless. I didn't care if Andrews and Stein was a front for the American Nazi Party. She didn't have a chance. So the only serious contenders in that bunch were me, patent leather hair, and kumquat. I inherited the clipboard from the one who had forgotten her social security card, and she was in and out still babbling about that damn number before I got endowed to educational background. Before high school, there was just 2 years in business school in Atlanta, but I graduated at the top of my class. It was work experience that really counted for a job like this. This wasn't the type of place where you would worry about moving up. All those boxes and file cabinets crowded behind the receptionist's shoulder. It was simply a matter of moving around. One job in 7 years looked very good. With a 50% increase in salary, duties diverse and more complex as I went along. The insurance company simply folded. That's all. If I'd stayed, I probably would have gone on to become an underwriter. But I was truly managing that office. 12 secretaries, 35 salesmen, 6 adjusters, and 1 greedy president who didn't have the sense to avoid insuring half of the buildings in the South Bronx, even at triple premiums for fire and water damage. Those crooked landlords made a bundle, and every time I saw someone with a signature cigarette lighter, I cringed. I was down to hobbies, which always annoyed me. What does your free time have to do with them? When patent leather hair was called in, she stood up the way women do, knowing they look better when all of them is at least the last in view. I wondered what she had put down in extracurricular activities. I sighed and crossed my legs. It was going to be a long wait. After 20 minutes, Kumquat smiled over at me sympathetically. At least we both knew that he didn't have a possible ace in the hole anymore. The intercom button at the receptionist's phone lit up, and when she got off, she beckoned over to Oriental guy. Mr. Andrews is still interviewing, so Mr. Stein will have to see you. Just take your application to the second door on the left, Mr. Westman. He grinned at me again as I felt my linen suit losing its final bit of crispness under the low voltage air conditioner. God, I wanted to go home. And I meant home. With all of Willow Spring's problems, you know when you saw a catfish, you called it a catfish. Well, Wiseman was in and out pretty fast. I told myself for the 1,000th time, nothing about New York is ever going to surprise me anymore. Stein was probably anti-Semitic. It was another 10 minutes, and I was still sitting there and really starting to get ticked off. Couldn't Mr. Stein see me as well? No, she just put through a long-distance call from a client. But Mr. Andrews wouldn't be ready for me soon. I seriously doubted it. He was in there trying to convince Patent Leather that even though she thought she was applying for a position as a lifeguard, they could find room for someone with her potential. I didn't give her the satisfaction of my half-hour wait when she came flaming out. I was busily reading the wrapper on the pack of Trident, having ditched my newspaper before I came in. The thing was irreversibly creased at the classifieds. My bag was too small to hide it, and you never wanted to look that desperate at an interview. And there weren't any old issues of Popular Mechanics or something in the waiting area, bottom drawer all the way. I was finally buzzed into the inner sanctum, and without a shred of hope, walked past the clutter of file cabinets, through another door that opened into a deceptively large network of small offices. I entered the third on the left as I had been instructed, and there you were. Blue shirt, knitted tie, nice teeth and all. Filling the box of mint toothpicks pressed against my thigh through the mesh bag as I sat down and crossed my legs. I smiled sincerely for the first time that day. Until you walked into my office that afternoon, I would have never called myself a superstitious man. Far from it. To believe in fate or predestination means you have to believe there's a future, and I grew up without one. It was either that or not grow up at all. Our guardians at the Wallace P. Andrews Shelter for Boys were adamant about the fact that we learn to invest in ourselves alone. Keep it in the now, fellas, Chip would say, chewing in his bottom right jaw and spitting as if he still had the plug of tobacco in there. Mrs. Jackson refused to let him use it in front of us, and I knew I'd hear her until the day I died. Only the present has potential, sir. I could see her even then, the way she jerked up her face, gripping the chin of some kid who was crying because his last foster home hadn't worked out, or because he was teased at school about not having a mother. She'd even reach up and clamp onto some muscled teenager who was trying to excuse a bad report card. I could still feel the ache in my bottom lip from the relentless grip of her thumb and forefinger pressed into the bone of my chin. Only the present has potential, sir. They may not have been loving people, she and Chip, or when you think about it, even lovable, but they were devoted to their job, if not to us individually. And Miss Jackson was part of her job as making sure that scraggly bunch of misfits misfitted into somebody's game plan, so we were not just thrown away, would at least hear themselves addressed with respect. There were so many boys and the faces kept changing. She was getting old and never remembered our individual names and didn't try to hide it. All of us were beneath poor, most of us were Black or Puerto Rican, so it was very likely that this would be the first and last time in our lives anyone would call us sir. And if talking to you and pinching the skin off your chin didn't work, she was not beneath enforcing those same words with a brown leather strap, a man's belt with the buckle removed. We always wondered where she got in a man's belt. You could look at Mrs. Jackson and tell she had never been Mrs., the old boys would say. Or if she had snagged some poor slob 1,000 years ago, he never could have gotten it up over her need to undo his pants. But that was only said well out of her earshot. After she had lashed one of them across the back of her arms, she'd bring that belt down with a cold precision that was more frightening than the pain she was causing, and she'd bring it down for exactly 10 strokes, one for each syllable. Only the present has potential, sir. No boy touched above the neck or below the waist in front, and she never ever hit the ones, regardless of the behavior, who had come to Wallace B. Andrews with fractured arms or cigarette burns on their groins. For those, she'd take away their dinner plus breakfast the next morning, and even lunch if she felt they warranted it. Bernie Sinclair passed out that way once, and when he woke up in the infirmary, she was standing over him explaining that he had remained unconscious past the dinner he still would have been deprived of if he hadn't fainted. Cruel? No. I would call it control. Bernie had spit in her face, and she never altered her expression, either when it happened during hygiene check or when she stood over him in the infirmary. Bernie had come to us with half of his teeth busted out, and he hated brushing the other half. She was going down the usual morning lineup for the boys under 12, checking fingernails behind the ears, calling for the morning stretch, hands above head, legs spread, knees bent and bounce, to detect unwashed armpits and crouches. Bernie wouldn't open his mouth for her and was getting his daily list of facts. She never lectured. She called it listing simple facts. If the remainder of his teeth rotted out from lack of personal care, then a dentist would have to fit him with a full plate instead of a partial plate, and it would take her twice as long to requisition twice the money that would then be needed from the state. That would lead to him spending twice as long being teased at school and restricted to a soft diet in the cafeteria. She said this like she did everything, slowly, clearly, and without emotion. For the second time, she bent over and told him to open his mouth. He did, and set a wad of spit against her right cheek. Even Joey Santiago cringed, all 6 feet and almost 200 pounds of him. But Mrs. Jackson never blinked. She took out the embroidered handkerchief she kept in her rolled-up blouse sleeve and wiped her face as she listed another set of facts. She had asked him twice. She never asked any child to do anything more than twice. Those were the rules at Wallace B. Andrews. No lunch, no dinner. And he still had his full share of duties. I guess that's why he passed out. No food under the hot sun and weed in our garden. That and fear of what she was really going to do to him for spitting on her. He was still new and didn't understand that she was going to do nothing at all. Our rage didn't matter to her. Our hurts or disappointments over what life had done to us, none of that was going to matter a damn in the outside world. So we might as well start learning it at Wallace B. Andrews. There were only rules and facts. Miss Jackson's world out there on Staten Island had rules that you could argue might not be fair, but they were consistent. And when they were broken, we were guaranteed that however she had to do it, we would be made to feel responsibility for our present actions and our actions alone. And oddly enough, we understood that those punishments were an improvement upon our situations. Before coming there, we had been beaten and starved just for being born. And she was the only person on the staff allowed to touch us. Even Chip, who had the role of good cop to her bad cop, you needed a shoulder to cry on sometimes, could only recommend discipline. It must have been difficult with 60 boys, and I'd seen some kids really provoke dorm director or worship leader, and the guy would never lay a hand on them. They all knew her rules, and it was clear those men were afraid of her. And I could never figure it out, even with the rumor that was going around, which Joey Santiago swore by. Joey was a notorious liar, but he was the oldest guy there was when I was growing up. And he said that some years back there was a dorm director who used to sneak into the dorms where we had the rubber sheet jockeys, kids under 8, and take them into the bathroom. After he was finished with them, they'd fall asleep on the toilet, where he'd make them sit until their rectum stopped bleeding. Miss Jackson and Chip came over one night, caught him at it, and she had told the boys she was going to call the police. They took him back to the old stucco house she lived in on the grounds. The police car never came, but her basement lights stayed on. And Joey swore you could hear that man screaming throughout the entire night. Although all of her windows were bolted down, it was loud enough to even wake up the older ones in the other dorms. That man was never seen again, and they knew better than to question Miss Jackson when she came over to pack up his things herself. And Chip had absolutely nothing to say about what had happened, but keep it in the now, fellas, as he dug Mrs. Jackson a new rose garden the following morning. Every staff member and boy who came to Wallace B. Andrews heard that rumor, and one way or another went over to see those roses in the corner of her garden. I can only tell you this: they were incredibly large and beautiful, and in the summer, when the evening breeze came from the east, their fragrance was strong enough to blanket your sleep. Some thought that I was her fairy tale. I was one of the few that had grown up there through the nursery, and she couldn't punish me the way she did them because I had a congenital heart disease. So she took away my books, knowing that I'd rather give up food or even have her use the strap, and once pleaded with her to do so, because I said I'd die if I had to wait a full week to find out how the Count of Monte Cristo escaped from prison. She said that was a fitting death for little boys who were caught cheating on their math exams. But fractions are hard, and I wanted a good grade at the end of the term. So I was worried about the end of the term. Well, she would now keep my books for 2 weeks. Only the present has potential, sir. And the discipline she tailor-made for us all said, like it or not, the present is you. And what else did we have but ourselves? We had a more than forgettable past and no future that was guaranteed. And she never let us pretend that anything else was the case, as she'd often listed the facts of life. I am not your mother. I am paid to run this place. You have no mothers or fathers. This is not your home, and it is not a prison. It is a state shelter for boys, and it is not a dumping ground for delinquents, rejects, or somebody's garbage, because you are not delinquents, rejects, or garbage. You are boys. It is not a place to be tortured, exploited, or raped. It is a state shelter for boys. Have a clean room, decent food, and cleaning clothes for each session, because it is a shelter. There is a library in which you study for 3 hours after school, and you will go to school because you are boys. When you are 18, the state says you are men. And when you are men, you leave here to go where and do what you want. But you stay here until you are men. Yes, those were the facts of life at Wallace B. Andrews, and those were her methods. And if any of the boys complained to the state inspectors about being punished, nothing was ever done. I guess at the bottom line, she saved the money. We grew and canned a lot of our own food, painted our own dorms, made most of the furniture, and even sold curtains and bedspreads, and the ones that turned out that weren't a burden on the state either. I don't know of anyone who became a drug addict, petty thief, or a derelict. I guess it's because you grew up with absolutely no illusions about yourself or the world. Most of us went from there either to college or into a trade. No, it wasn't the kind of place that turned out many poets or artists. Those who could draw became draftsmen, and the musicians were taught to tune pianos. If she erred in directing our careers, she erred on the side of caution. Sure, the arts were waiting for poor black kids who were encouraged to dream big, and so was Death Row. Looking back, I can see how easy it would have been for her to let us just sit there and reach the right age to get out. It only takes time for a man to grow older, but how many of them grow up? And I couldn't have grown up if I had wasted my time crying about a family I wasn't given or believing in a future that I didn't have. When I left Wallace P. Andrews, I had what I could see, my head and my two hands, and I had each day to do something with them. Each day, that's how I took it. Each moment sometimes, when the going got really tough. I may have knocked my head against the walls, figuring out how to buy food, supplies, and books, but I never knocked on wood. No rabbit's foot, no crucifixes, not even a lottery ticket. I couldn't afford the dollar or the dreams while I was working my way through Columbia. So until you walked into my office, everything I was, all the odds I had beat, was owed to my living fully in the now. How I was to reconcile the fact of seeing you the second time that day with the feeling I had had that first time. Not the feeling I had told myself I had, but the one I really had. You see, there was no way for me to deny that you were there in front of me, and I couldn't deny any longer that I knew it would happen. You would be in my future. What had been captured and dismissed in a space too quickly for recorded time was now like a bizarre photograph that had been developing in front of my face. I am passing you in the coffee shop. Your head is bent over folded newspaper. Strands of small reddish-brown hair have come undone from bobby pins and lie against the curve of your neck. The feeling is so strong, it almost physically stops me. I will see that neck again. Not her, not the woman, but the skin that's tinted from amber to cream as it stretches over the lean bone underneath. That is the feeling I actually had. While in the feeling I quickly exchanged with it was, I've seen this woman before. That can be recorded. It took a split second, but a glance at the side of your high cheekbones, pointed chin, slender profile, and I knew I was mistaken. I hadn't even seen you sitting those 3 tables away during lunch, but I remembered your waitress well. The dark brown arms, full breast threatening to tear open the front of her uniform, the crease of her apron strings around a non-existent waist that swung against a hip line that could only be called a promise of heaven on earth. Her and I had seen. You had been there when she took your order and bought you whatever you were eating. And the fact is, I never saw you. Not when I stood up, reached into my pocket for change, passed the 2 tables between us, and didn't see you then, until the neck bent over the newspaper. And it all could have been such a wonderful coincidence when you first walked into my office, a natural icebreaker for the interview, which I always hated, being forced to judge someone else. I could have brought up the final image of the weary slump, the open classifieds, and the shoes pulled off beneath the table. A woman looking for a job. We were looking for an office manager 5 blocks away. Afternoon interviews began at 1 o'clock and it was 12:45. And just imagine, Miss Day, when I passed you, I said to myself, wouldn't it be funny if I saw her again? Except that it was terrifying when you sat down. And then you ran your hand up the curve of your neck in a nervous mannerism, pushing up a few loose hairs and pushing me smack into a confrontation with fate. When you unconsciously did that, I must have looked as if someone had stuck a knife into my gut, because that's the way it felt. You said, call me George, and I thought, oh God, this is going to be one of those let's get chummy fast masquerades. 9 times out of 10, some clown giving you his first name is a sure bet he's not giving you the job. And they can comfort themselves because after all, they went out of their way to be nice. And in this case, you were still in my thunder when the moment came for pulling out my toothpicks and reminding Mr. Andrews where I'd seen him before. But if we were George and Ophelia, chat, my mint toothpicks would just be added fuel to the fire that was sending this job up in smoke. Those fudge on fudge interviews were always tricky anyway. You have the power freaks who wanted you to grovel at their importance. They figured if they don't get it from the other bomboons, It's sure not coming from anywhere else. Or there were the disciples of a free market with the Christ complex. They went to the cross and rose without affirmative action, so you can too. But our interview wasn't anything I could put my finger on. You just seemed downright scared of me and anxious to get me out of that office. And I knew the fastest way was this call me George business. I decided to fight fire with fire. And I'm used to answering to Coco. I guess we might as well start now, because if I get the position and anyone here calls me Ophelia, I'll be so busy concentrating on my work it won't register. I truly doubt I could have moved up as fast as I did at my last job with a 50% increase in salary if those 12 secretaries, 35 salesmen, and 6 adjusters in the office I was managing almost single-handedly had called me Ophelia. The way I see it, over half of the overtime I put in would have been spent trying to figure out who they were talking to. There, I stuck that one to you. And you knew it too, because you were finally smiling. And this time, you took a real good look at my application. So you picked up this nickname at your last job, Omega Home Insurance? No, I've had it from a child. In the South, it's called a pet name. My grandmother and great aunt gave it to me. The same women who put me through business school in Atlanta, where I ended up graduating at the top of my class. A's in statistics, typing, bookkeeping, B pluses, and that's fascinating. How do you decide on a pet name? They was just trying to figure out what fits. So a child with skin the color of buttercream gets called Coco. I can see how that fits. I wanted to slap that smirk off your face. It does if you understood my family and where I come from. Willow Springs, is it? That's in Georgia? No, it's actually in no state, but that's a long story. And not to be rude, Mr. Andrews, but I really would like to talk about my credentials for working here. Where I was born and what name I was given were both beyond my control. But what I could do about my life, I've done well. And I'd like to spend a few minutes I have left of your time being judged on that. Something happened to your face then. I had hit a raw nerve somewhere, and I cursed myself because I was sure I had succeeded in destroying the whole thing. It was little consolation knowing that I was going to be on your mind long after you kicked me out of your office. That's the only way I'd ever dream of judging anyone, Miss Day. And I meant it when I said, call me George. Great, I've been demoted up to Miss Day. This man was really angry. And that George business again just clinched it, I guess. But then he did say I meant it, which means he knows about the whole charade and he's trying to reassure me that he's not angry about what I said. Who can figure this shit out? And you can call me. I was suddenly very tired of you, of the whole game. Just call me when you decide. I do need this job. And if you check out my references, you'll find that I'll be more than able to perform well. Fine. And this is the number where you can be reached? Yes, but I'll be away for the next 2 weeks. If you don't mind, you could just drop me a card, or I'll call when I get back since the job doesn't start until the 1st. You frowned. But it came out the way it came out. Sure, he's thinking, how badly does someone need a job who's taking a vacation? But we'll be making our final decision after tomorrow. The person starts Monday. Your ad said the 1st. It did. But our current office manager told us this morning that she has to leave earlier than she had planned, and she'll have to break in her successor. This is a deceptively busy place, and we have to have someone here cold. Well, it wouldn't be fair to the new employee or to us. And we thought whoever got the position would probably appreciate starting work before September. I know how tight things are out there right now. Most people have been looking for a long time. Jesus, all we needed was the organ music and a slow fade to my receding back as the swirling sand of the cocky coastline began to spell out the end. Oh yeah, if you aren't ready to start yesterday, there are a dozen who will be. I understand, and I wouldn't have wasted your time if I knew it was necessary to begin right away. I have to go home every August. It's never been a problem before because I had the same job for 7 years. You see, my grandmother is 83, and since we lost my cousin and her family last year, I'm the only grandchild left. If you thought it was a cheap shot, sorry. At that point, I was beyond caring. The whole family? That's really terrible. What happened? Did you read about the fire in Linden Hills this past Christmas? Well, that was my cousin Willa and her husband and son. It upset us all a lot. I did read about it. It was an awful, awful thing. And on Christmas of all days. My God, the look in your eyes, you actually meant that. This would go down in Guinness as the strangest interview I'd ever been on. So you understand why I'm going back to Willow Springs. Of course I do. And you must understand why any qualified applicant would need to start Monday. Yes, I do. We had sure become one understanding pair of folks by the time the lights in the theater came up and they pulled the curtain across the screen. We got up out of our seats and shook hands. Was it my imagination? Did his fingers linger just a bit? Was it possible that since I was more than qualified, no one else would come along and they'd save? My heart sank when I got back to the reception area. I had to wade through a whole Baskin Robbins on my way to the outside hall. You had spunk, Ophelia, and that's what I admired in a woman. You were justified to come right out and tell me I was prying, and I hated myself all the while I was doing it. I had always valued my own privacy, and just because you were in a position where you had to answer questions that bordered on an invasion of yours made what I did all the more unfair. If it's any consolation, I didn't enjoy the sour aftertaste of abused power, but I was searching for some connection, some rational explanation. The only way I could sit through that interview was by lying to myself about what had really happened in that coffee shop. When I passed your bent neck, I stopped because I had seen you somewhere before, and I couldn't remember, that's all. I had definitely seen your type before, and had even slept with some of them. Those too bright, too jaded color girls. There were a few at Columbia, but many more would come across the street from Barnyard. They made no bones about their plans to hook into a man who, what was the expression then, who was going somewhere. Well, after classes, I went to work as a room service waiter in the Hilton. It wasn't as glamorous as the work-study jobs in the library or dean's office, but it paid a lot better when you counted tips. During the slack periods, my boss let me read, and I had Sundays off. But you see, that wasn't the right day. All the guys were going somewhere and had been able to take girls to the fraternity dances on Friday and Saturday nights, where they could show off their brand new clothes. They only needed a pair of jeans to go to the park with me or to sit in my room and study. I was too serious, too dull. George doesn't know how to have fun, they'd say. He's so quiet. I suppose I was. But what could I honestly talk to them about? They would have thought I was crazy if I had told them that seeing them flow around me like dark jewels on campus was one of the most beautiful sights on earth. Yes, I was one of the quiet ones who thought them beautiful. Even with the polished iron webbing around their hearts, I understood exactly what they were protecting themselves against. And I was willing to help them shine that armor all the more, to be the shoulder they could cry on when they got too heavy, if they had only let me in. But they didn't want me then. And I was to meet them years later, at parties and dinners, when the iron had served them a bit too well. They were successful, and they were alone. Those guys who were going somewhere had, by either inclination or lack of numbers, left a good deal of them behind. They had stopped being frivolous, but they were hurt and suspicious, and maturity made me much more hesitant to take a chance on finding an opening into hearts like those. Often, I had wanted to go over and shake some silk-clad shoulder who thought she was righteously justified in spreading the tired old gospel about not being able to meet good black men. She had met me, but I would have been too proud to remind her where. Yeah, I knew your type well, and you sat there with your mind racing, trying to double-think me. And so sure you had me and the genuine game down pat. Give him what he wants. I fooled you, didn't I? All I wanted was for you to be yourself. And I wondered if it was too late. If 7 years in New York had been just enough for you to lose that, like you were trying to lose your southern accent. It amused me the way your tongue and lips were determined to clip along, and then your accent would find you in spaces between two words, talking about, graduating at. In spite of yourself, the music would squeeze through at the ending of those verbs to tilt the following vowels up just half a key. That's why I wanted you to call me George. There wasn't a southerner alive who could bring that name in under 2 syllables. And for those brief seconds, it allowed me to imagine you as you must have been, softer, slower, open. It conjured up images of jasmine-scented nights, warm biscuits, and honey being brought to me on flower china plates as you sat at my feet and rubbed your cheek against my knee. So Go ahead and laugh. You have a perfect right. I have never been south, and you couldn't count the times I had spent in Miami at the Super Bowl. That city was a humid and pastoral New York. So I had the same myths about southern women that you did about northern men. But it was a fact that when you said my name, you became yourself. And it was also a fact that there was no way I was going to give you that job. And your firm plans about returning to Willow Springs helped to alleviate my guilt about that. We were going to turn other qualified people down. And it's never a matter of the most qualified. There's no such animal. It's either do they or don't they fit. And where could I possibly place you? My life was already made at 31. My engineering degree, the accelerating success of Andrews and Stein, proved beyond a shadow of doubt that you got nothing from believing in crossed fingers, broken mirrors, spilled salt, a twist in your gut in the middle of a 3rd Avenue coffee shop. You either do or you don't. And you, Ophelia, were the don't. Don't get near a woman who has the power to turn your existence upside down by simply running a hand up the back of her neck. And that is chapter 1 of Mama Day by Gloria Naylor. What I find most striking about that first opening chapter is Gloria immediately lets you know exactly where we are, right? We open up and we know that there is a negress woman that is being sold, which is immediately a very jarring way to open the book with that there. And we go from there to now we're in Willow Springs and we immediately hearing about a conjure woman. So we know that we are about to go deep into some historical facts. Like this is going to be a cultural journey just from opening up and going into that. And then once we get into the story, is one thing when I'm reading aloud to you. It's another thing when you're reading for yourself. But I really enjoy the way the dialogue is set up in the book. So it's that banter between George and Ophelia as they're getting started. Just in those early exchanges, you can kind of already feel that tension. What about when she sees him and she knows what she's thinking, but then equally, honey, he said he saw her neck. He said, stay away from a woman that can set your world awry with just running her hands along the curve of her neck. I heard that, but I really did definitely like that because you could feel their tension even if you don't know like where their story is going. You definitely want to know. And then, of course, there's those hints of those cultural practices where I open up with those practices and things that live beneath the surface are things that we've been taught to hide or to dismiss. That's just the wrong kind of knowledge. We know that in our history, we have an ancient history of roots and cultural practices that we've been taught that are forbidden, are to keep hidden, that are secret. So I am very interested to see where Gloria goes with this. And then it's also interesting to see if you look at, we covered Elin Harris, right? So you do Elin Harris that he received no multiple times when he was trying to do his book. And so he decided to publish himself because they said that there wasn't a place for Black queer spaces in the literary world. And then he proved them wrong. And then you have Gloria Naylor. She was the author. She's the author of Women of Brewster Place. And when she got through with that book, one that gained popularity. So, then she goes to this book talking about another subject that would be deemed taboo, right? And this was her second book. This wasn't her second book, but this was after she had already published Women of Brewster Place. So, is it that because she had already had a little bit of credibility, then she was able to be a little bit more free in doing what it is that she wants to do. But either way, I definitely feel like you can tell that I love that she's in her voice. I also like the same thing with Toni Morrison, and you can kind of immediately pick up their distinctive voices in their writings when you start reading it. And some of the parallels I will draw is that I love that you always see bits of the writers that in kind of some of their works, or at least I know so a lot of the writers that I like you do. So you talk about what Gloria, she in her work talk about her influence when she found and started reading Alice Walker and Zora Neale Hurston and such. And so then you get into this book and you have the young boy that now, while he went and he gathered the information incorrectly, it still takes me back to the roots of, Zora Neale Hurston, who went to Barnard College. You heard about that in his school. George was in Columbia, which is across from Barnard. They talked about that a little bit. But Zora went to Barnard. And then in addition to that, Zora also was an anthropologist. And so when you talk about the young boy in this, him going back kind of was the same. And in that anthropology work, just kind of drawing it all together and wrapping it up, because I know this episode is a little bit long. But one of the things I absolutely love about these books is I am not the girl to go out and have to go buy brand new books. I love going used book shopping. I love book swaps. So if you want to have some books you want to swap with me, let me know. I love using old thrifting books and getting old books and used books. And one of the things I love is that I frequently find these really cool things inside of the books. I found pictures inside of one of my Elin Harris books. I found inside of one of the books that I got. The person had passed away, and I knew that because their husband had bought a stamp, and they had a custom stamp made, and they stamped all their wives' books and before they donated their books. But that was absolutely beautiful. Like, how awesome is that? I have a huge collection of books. But I thought it was very awesome that when I got this book, again, Gloria Naylor, Mama Day, I thrifted the book. But when I opened it, inside of the book, I found the original receipt from March 4th, 1995, where it was purchased from Crown Books 973. And this original book, I believe it was originally $9.90. So I thought it was absolutely amazing. You just never know what kind of little awesome finds you're going to find inside of these books. And I did look it up, and I was able to find one. Crown Books did go out of the business back in 2001. But they were in this location, particularly was in Maryland. How amazing. Awesome. Anyway, again, my name is Nakira. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please, you can follow me on all social media. I'm at NYKIERIA. You can also follow us at Black Art is Lit, BLACKARTISLIT, because it is. And please share this episode with a friend. Have a good one, and talk with you next week.